The Cultra Trail Running Podcast is a place where we can get together to discuss all the fun shit that happens on the trails that most normal people don't care about, and all the crazy shit that happens in our minds that most people won't talk about. As you know, the most talked about race in the U.S., the Western States 100, is about to take place, and many of you will be watching to see how the elites, and perhaps if they're lucky, a few of your friends will be doing. In order to give you guys the best information of Western states viewed through an East Coast lens, we are bringing in two local, young, hired guns who certainly know their shit when it comes to ultra running. El Niño, a.k.a. the Chosen One, a.k.a. Tobias Tello, a.k.a. now Toby, has joined forces with his ultra running college buddy Abel Murphy to launch their own podcast, aptly named The Cultra Boys. Their focus is primarily discussing the nuances of elite trail and ultra running. This show serves as a preview to the Cultra Boys preview of Western States. Hope you enjoy episode 328.
From the belly of the Beast Coast, Glastonbury, Connecticut, this is the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. We talk about all the fun shit that happens on the trails that most normal people don't care about. The language we use is f***ing explicit and raw like the trails we run on. So don't listen with your kids! Cultra is brought to you by our Patreons and supporters, and we are 112% listener supported, and support is good.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. I'm your host, Art Byram, and I have an old friend joining us and a new friend joining us. You know, as I mentioned in the intro, we have the Cultra Boys here with us today. And that is I wanted, like, he fucked up because he changed his name on me. Like, I just kind of was learning Tobias Tello and Abel Murphy. So welcome, guys, to Cultra.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we're happy to be here. Glad
to have you. So they all, you know, in addition to both being ultra runners, I mean, everybody knows so Tobias now goes by Toby, right? So
yeah. El Niño to everyone in Connecticut.
Yes, thank you. Yes, El Niño, the Chosen One.
That's what they're calling.
Oh my gosh, he has. There's so many different.
I didn't know about these nicknames that he had. This is impressive.
Oh my god. Yeah,
I need to catch up.
Yeah. He's he's been quite the legend. I mean, so Tobias was out there. I mean, I'm trying to think of the year that I first met you out at the spring fling
in 2018, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking I think it was 20. You ran 2017, right?
I don't think so. I think it was 2018. I ran my first 50K, and then I went to spring fling, like, I don't know, a couple months later, later, and ran like 40 miles to top it off.
I just know, well, I don't think, spring fling. Yes. Yeah. And that's a 10-hour race.
Yeah.
So I know that I was going through and I was like, who is this kid? You know, and you were just out there, and I was like, man, he's like, you know, he's just not stopping. He's just going. And I'd come by every hour or two or whatever. And I was like, yeah, look at him. He's fucking going. So I was like, okay, we're having a podcast. I got to find out what's the backstory. Who is this guy? So, you know, we had you and your dad on the show, and that was awesome. You know, 50 Cent, you know, Enrique. So,
big shout out.
Yes. And now he is known as father of the Chosen One. So which is just awesome. So, and you know, little did we know at that time that you would develop into the trail running powerhouse that we see before us today. So, you know, since that time, you've gone on to you finished the Cut 112 like 2 times. Am I right? Twice, yeah. And that's, you know, that's as much as I've done it, for God's sake. I mean, so that's pretty impressive, according to me. So no, that's.
I've sworn off the Cut, but I'm back to help when I can. So I've helped pace a couple times, which has been really great to be on the other side of that, crewing and pacing.
Yeah. No, I saw you guys in your and in addition to your running, you also have your own podcast now on trail running, but it approaches it from a totally different angle than Cultra does, I would say.
Definitely.
And that's like you approach it from like an educated perspective of the sport instead of like pull statistics out of your ass approach. I mean, no, we do talk some truth here and there, but it is there's large chunks of jackassing around in there as well. So your podcast called The Colder Boys, right? Now, when maybe you guys could kind of maybe we'll start with you, Abel. Maybe you could kind of tell us a little bit about The Colder Boys. What is that all about?
Yeah, so Toby and I think we actually didn't meet until I think this spring when Toby got back. He was abroad in Switzerland in the fall, and we both work at the local Fleet Feet up here in Burlington. And yeah, we just got together, and like I feel like the first day we met, it just kind of clicked. Like we'd never met someone our age who we could kind of just riff on about just trail running in general, whether it's the pro scene or races we've done or trails we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got to talking, we like couldn't stop talking. And then we were like, oh man, like if we're talking this much, we might as well put it out there for the world to enjoy, because we know that trail running media is such a big thing and it's growing every day. So we thought, why not make it a podcast? Seems easy enough. So yeah, we got together, and usually it used to be in my dorm room on campus during the school year. And we just use a little computer mic and just kind of let it run and talk trails and have a great time. And yeah, it's just kind of become a little ritual that we do, and just a great way to kind of get other people involved in trail running, because we know how awesome the sport is, but it's really important to us that we share it with our friends, our family, and anyone who wants to listen about how in-depth trail running can really be.
Sure. Yeah. That's the thing that you guys really bring to it, is that you approach, like lots of people will say, oh, Courtney this, or Jim this, or, I don't know, this one's fucking great or whatever. But like you guys go in and it's like listening to, like if it's like listening to the sports line on it. Like, yeah, this one has Secretariat has a bad has a bad hoof. And you guys kind of like get into the nitty gritty of like, oh, I think this one's going to do well because they ran a good race here, or they're, I hear they're struggling, or you guys like the amount of information that you come out with about the elites and about the elite running scene is so impressive and really shockingly professional. So it's awesome. I think it's great. So I would say that anybody who's out there who if you want to know what the latest and the greatest is on the elite ultra scene, the Colder Boys podcast is a great place to go, because you got two guys who are who are active runners who know what it's about, and definitely you have your ears to the ground there with a East Coast perspective too. So I'll throw that in there, because coincidentally they live in the the trail running capital of the world, I guess. So somehow Burlington, Vermont, just coincidentally they landed there, right? How weird is that?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances?
Yeah.
Not looking at places around here, especially we're both students at the same school, the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources at the University of Vermont. So kind of made sense for us academically, as well as sort of trails wise, some big mountains, and definitely some cold winters, and that kind of inspired the Colder Boys name. It's as you might know, a ripoff of the podcast that many of the listeners probably recognize, the Boulder Boys, who are a bunch of actually professional runners out in Boulder, Colorado, who I think they ripped off Coffee Club, which is a bunch of other professional runners, like track guys out in Colorado. So it all comes around.
It's a full circle kind of. We're all ripping each,
and really here we're like, I'm trying to rip off the like WFAN that I grew up listening to. So
Oh, you guys are like Mike and the Mad Dog
Yeah.
or something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, you know what? I freely admit that I kind of ripped off 10 junk miles here and there. And and it's interesting how much we're influenced by stuff like that, because sometimes you listen to shows and you listen to um things and it's like, yeah, I feel the same way too. And I could just picture myself saying the exact same fucking thing. But now you said it. So when I say it, it's like, that's how it is. I found that for the most part, I've had to stop listening to the other podcasts that are anywhere, that are in the same lane or anywhere near mine, just so that I don't steal things and think that I made them up myself.
Ooh, we can't do that. We have to keep
Yeah,
listening, or else I'm gonna get so bored on my runs.
you do, but you guys you're bringing a nice touch to it as well, though, because of your local knowledge because it's not like they're not talking about the Beast Coast, right?
No, rarely.
No, where
Only
we
you
pride
and
ourselves. We
Yeah,
pride ourselves on the Beast Coast.
and you know why they don't talk about it?
why is that?
Because they're fucking
What's that?
scared. Because they're fucking scared. Okay,
Can't take the heat. They got out of the kitchen. They couldn't
that's
take the
right.
heat.
That's right. You can't take the heat. Maybe they can take the heat, but they can't take the humidity in this fucking
No,
kitchen.
never.
So, between
No.
that and the rocks and the roots. So, um, excellent. So you guys have 5 episodes out now, right? I think.
Something like that. Is it
Yeah,
five?
I think
Think
so. I've listened to the.
5. Yeah.
I see. That's good. Like if you're starting to forget what episode it is, you've
Yeah.
kind of arrived. Like you're kind of big. You're big deals with that. Um, so Abel, tell me about your running journey. Like, where did you start? How did you start running?
Yeah. Yeah. I started running. Have come from kind of a more traditional cross country and track background. Kind of all throughout high school. I was on a really kind of serious cross country and track team. We would travel all over the Southeast to compete in
Mm,
meets, and I was dead set on running in college. But kind of as I got older, I realized my skill set kind of lay more in the endurance field. And I was like, man, I could go slower for longer than all of these guys, but they can go faster than me for 3 miles. So I
hmm
might as well play to my strengths. And kind of eventually, towards my senior year, well, I guess sort of my sophomore and junior year, I started dipping my toes in the ultras, doing a few 25Ks here and there. And then my senior year kind of focused in on like 50Ks and 50 milers and kind of stepped it up. And I actually ultimately opted out of my senior track season to kind of focus on
mm.
training on the trails just because that's what I really enjoyed. And I decided I didn't want to go run in college at that point.
So
Um,
that's kind of like right out of the Lila Gaudreau playbook, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
fuck
exactly.
this,
Yeah,
I'm going
because
to play my own game.
yeah, because I think she said screw it to senior cross country, and she was one of the top runners in her state.
Yes,
So,
state champion,
um,
junior,
yeah,
freshman and
yeah,
sophomore year. Took
yeah, and
junior
I
and
mean,
senior year out.
look how it's turned out for her. I mean, she just kudos to her for getting a Mount to Coast deal. That was really awesome to see. Um, so yeah, and I think my dad kind of he did a 50K like after COVID. He was one of those guys. He got
Mm.
a little inspired, and he kind of introduced me to the trails, and I've just been hooked ever since.
Okay,
So
so you were in high school doing 50 milers, is that right?
yeah, well, I attempted my first one in high school. I had a heat stroke and didn't finish it, but I attempted it. It
You're
was
like
okay. It was a
you're
good
high
learning moment.
maintenance. You're kind of
It
like
was a good
lots of
learning moment.
lots of drama and high maintenance, right? Which
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
right? Oh my gosh. But that's awesome. So then you went, so what was the name of the first ultra that you did then?
The first ultra that I did was the Sylamore Trail 50K, which is kind of a local. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, so
Good.
I'm kind of
Okay.
from the southeast region. And it's one of the hardest ultras to get into in Arkansas that fills up in like 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of in Northwest Arkansas in the Ozarks. It's a really awesome race that a lot of people from Memphis do and from Arkansas do. And so that was my first one, and I did it. One of my best friends from Memphis, he actually also happened to focus on ultras instead of running in college. So we kind of did it together. And our dads both did it. And yeah, it was just a really awesome. And I think I was fifth overall in that one. I ran like 4:30 or something. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
like I might actually be all right at this ultra thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that's pretty good.
yeah, after that, I was like, get me to the trails.
Mm, very good. Very good. So what's your perfect trail then? What's like your idea of a
Ooh.
great, I know, I know what Toby's are, I know what he's
Yeah.
all about. Like
Yeah,
he's,
this is where Toby and I kind of butt heads. We're always
yeah,
we
I'm
we play
sensing
to each
that.
other's strengths because Toby's the technical master. He'll drop me like it's nobody's business on a New England descent or ascent.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm more of like I love the flow, like that West Coast flow, and down south it's a lot of we just don't have as many rocks. I mean, it's just like it's a
Hmm.
lot smoother to get around. And so I like, being able to keep my stride for the majority of the run. Whereas when it's like those like jagged kind of, you got to make sure you step right or you're gonna land and bust your chin open kind of trails are. I'm definitely. I mean, I came to New England for a reason. I love a good challenge, so I'm trying
Hmm.
to get better. But just being able to trust myself, that's what I'm working on. But I love the flow and like
Mm,
runnable vert. Runnable vert is man. There's
yeah.
nothing better than a runnable vert heavy trail.
You
We need to
can,
get you to Sleeping Giant.
oh,
Yeah, I know. I might have to next year.
go up the tower
Yeah, just
challenge.
the tower trail. That's pretty much all we have for runnable in this area, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else is you can run it, but it'll be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that that's such a runnable trail in an
Hmm.
area that is like Sleeping Giant as a whole is just every time I go there I'm like I can't believe I forgot how hard this place is, where you're going to do 20, if you do 20 miles there, I'm like ready for traction, I mean, like I need to be, you know I almost need a hospital room after that. But like the trail there, the carriage trail or the tower
Mhm.
trail is just like
Hmm.
crushed gravel, nice
Ooh.
incline, and it just has switchbacks. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. But it's that's interesting running there. So
It's,
um
it's
Yeah, I'll have to
been
get down to Connecticut this summer to visit Toby and do that trail with him and see what it's all about.
yeah, or that, or another one's West Rock is the other one
Mhm.
that always just like I always wonder how my friends who run there have shoes still, because you just go there and I just feel like I'm like, wow, the whole side of my foot just got smashed here. And you know and I'm like 3 miles in. So it's always a lot of fun there.
Yeah, for sure.
uh,
I'm always talking up Blue to Blue and all these races, especially Sleeping Giant 50K recently.
mm-hmm,
And it's hard to describe Blue to Blue to someone who doesn't know because the vert isn't crazy.
mm-hmm,
Like the map, it doesn't look like anything insane, but there's something about the regicides that just breaks you. That
mm,
trail is just insane, and there's a reason why the winning times are. I don't know what the course record is now. I think it's 5:30 ish.
mm.
Justin Kowski might even be a bit faster than that, but there's a reason some of
Yeah,
that stuff is
that
so.
that's like where all the bad rocks go to die. Like it's like a penal colony for offending rocks. The hard cases get sent to that regicides trail. So I don't know. That is a crazy trail, but um, we got to talk about some easier trails, some more runnable stuff, things that are a track, like track running. So um, coming up, we have we have Western States, right? Is coming up
Yep.
pretty quickly. I guess like
It's 2 weeks from or
yeah,
a week from Saturday.
yeah, yep. So so what's the latest on Bessick right now? Has he moved up on that list? Do you know? I haven't checked it lately, but I thought
I
he was
checked it
within like
earlier today.
standby with like 10 people, I think last I saw.
I think he
10 or
has
11.
less now.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think there
hopefully
was like
Bessick.
last I checked, there were like 5 people ahead of him or something like that.
Oh,
It's
okay.
getting close.
Huh.
Let's see here. Yeah, there are 5 people ahead of him. So
Wow. Okay.
It's down to the wire.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if he's got to get,
Oh yeah.
maybe we'll let him borrow the Cultra corporate jet if he gets it. We'll fly him down there. We would do that for him. Or he
That's
could probably
awesome.
fucking run there actually.
Yeah.
So, you know. Um, okay, so yeah, so Western States is coming up, and there's so much talk about this. You know, every year there's so much buzz about Western States, and I kind of get it, and I kind of don't get it. I tend to think, I'm like one of the few people who is like, well, you know what? There's some pretty good fucking local races that I like that have great community and you know people that have been bonding and you know and all that. But it is undeniably you get a good race, and I love a good, I don't care if it's a high school race or what it is, but with this there's a lot of different stories going into the race this year. Maybe not as many as we thought there were going to be. I guess like Jim Walmsley is out and some other runners that you guys know that I can't come up with their fucking names who have somewhat recently dropped. But I still think it's always it's always a good thing to look at, and exciting, from a sports standpoint, if nothing else. So, what are you thinking as far as overall at the race? Like, how's it shaping up for you guys? What are your thoughts about the race in general?
It's a really interesting year coming in because we had so much hype building up, like you said. And now it seems like a little bit of that has died down with the cancellation of Unbreakable 2,
Yes.
the movie. I'm sure most people in the audience have seen, but if you haven't seen Unbreakable 1, highly recommend it. It's what years is it? 2010 Western States?
2010, yeah.
Yeah. And it's really a great window into what makes that race special and what our sport was like just 15 years ago.
Mm,
It was very different, but
yeah. I
I
think
think
that movie is one that Jimmy Mack credited to his
mm,
interest in Western states and maybe ultra running as a whole. I think he saw
yeah,
that film and said, "Oh, I got to do that." So um,
yeah, it's really, really cool. But they were planning to make a second version of it, sort of a remake with this year's sort of competitors and everything like that. But it ended up getting canceled. We're not really sure why, but I think everyone thinks it has something to do with sponsor money dropping out because some of the top runners who were going to be followed by the film uh, scratched.
mm.
So yeah,
But
so, but we
there's
still have
still
a
a
really
lot.
competitive race. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still, I mean, like if just talking about the men's side, right? Maybe we'll start there and then, move on. So, um, starting from the men's side, who do your, what are we looking at, or what's here's like two things that I'd like to know. Like, what is the common, you know, the common what's being spoken out there as far as the race, the general feeling about who's going to win and why, and then what's the real story that you guys know that nobody else out there knows?
I think the easy pick, the easy common pick, and that might be because it's right, is Kilian Jornet.
Okay.
He is like one of those names that, as as sort of an ultra runner, you hear, and I think also somewhat transcends ultra running. Like, I work today at Fleet Feet. I saw there's like a Kilian Jornet thing in the Koros watch display, just as the model. Like he is
Mm.
one of the guys, and even if you didn't know who he was, he looks like a very sort of European trail runner guy.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
he grew up like as a child of, of shepherds and was like, his parents kept him in a high altitude camp and he
yeah,
just fucking played in the mountains all day long, right?
yeah.
And, you know,
Yep.
you can't go wrong with that. But
Yeah.
right
He
now
won the
there's
race in 2011, so
yeah, is the
Yep.
question
crazy.
is right, like is he, some people will say he's arguably in his best shape ever. You guys agree with that or no?
We'll see. I think it's hard to ever say Killian's not in great shape just compared to the average Joe. I mean, you look at I mean, you can go on Strava and look at like a 45-mile run where his heart rate is unbelievably low. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just ridiculous how he's able to train while being think he has 2 young children now.
Mm,
But I do think he's definitely like one of the older guys in the field, and there are definitely, I think, a big storyline kind of watch for in Western states, and something that I think is kind of there every year that I enjoy is who's going to be the young gun that kind of goes up at the front and tries to assert themselves. And this year we have a ton of young guys in here who
hmm.
are kind of fighting for a chance to kind of really prove themselves on like the biggest of stages here in America. So that'll be really, really exciting to watch. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And so what do you guys, and let me ask you this now. I don't know if you guys are you guys of the same, I assume you've talked about this, like who your, let's say top five are. Have you guys talked about that between yourselves or no?
We've kind of
Not
tossed up like names, but we haven't fully solidified. I have a list, and I'm sure Toby probably has one
Uh-huh.
too, but I haven't like we haven't given them away yet. So
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Um, but so like who would be, for starters, like so we got to think about who's in the discussion, right? So who do you guys have in that, that you give a real like a real chance at this?
real chance. Definitely, we have to go with Rod Farvard.
Yes. He won, he
Second
was
last
second
year.
place, right?
Yeah, so it seems pretty intuitive that first place isn't returning. He's ready to come take the mantle. But yeah, you have a couple other people. Adam Peterman, previous winner,
Mm-hmm.
has to be in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who else do you have? Just so many great athletes
Yeah. Yeah.
who have raced really well.
Yeah, I would say one
Hans
of the top
Troyer,
guys. Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
big
Hans
fans of
Troyer is kind
his.
of he's an interesting storyline. We can get to that. I would say another one that you did, 2 guys that you didn't talk about that are both kind of really have high pedigrees at Western States is Dan Jones.
Oh, for
He's
sure.
coming from New Zealand, super strong. He's been in the top 10, even in the top 5 for a number of years. And Caleb Olson, who was 5th place in his debut last year, which is one of the highest debut finishes of anybody at Western States.
Mm.
Um, so,
And
and
in
then
one of the fastest
obviously
times.
there is one enigma within the top field that
Yes.
I hesitate to name, but
We
David
don't particularly
Roche.
like this runner.
Yes, that's the elf in the room. So let's talk about that because that's somebody that, you know what, I have probably more knowledge in, um, about him than most of the other runners out there. So, yeah. So what do you guys like? I heard, I don't hear that you're super enthusiastic about his chances. Is that right? Or is it what? And I'm wondering, like, I got to ask myself, like, if that is the case, you know, like where do you guys kind of stand on this?
It's a hard question because it's so easy to let your personal emotions where you might not be a fan of a runner, which, in sports, I think in ultra running, that's a little bit frowned upon. But I think in most other sports, it's something that's really okay to just say, hey, I don't like this player. I don't like his attitude. I don't like this. I don't like that. And I think that's something we want to bring to trail running to have a little bit more of I'm a Hans Troyer fan, but I don't need to be a David Roche fan, and that's okay. Um,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think it's okay. I think it's okay because
no,
you're not saying that he's a bad person. You're just saying that
no.
he's not your flavor,
Yeah.
right? Is that
No,
what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I find him, sometimes his videos to be a little bit annoying. I just, I don't love the style, and that's fine, Um,
Yeah.
so
That
similar,
okay.
yeah.
I get that because like now I'm a regular listener to his shows just because I've always found him to be like, um, along with his wife Megan, to be on the cutting edge of coaching in my opinion, and I've heard him on on other podcasts doing coaches corners, on Science of Ultra, and people that are known, that I had always considered as the scientific cutting edge of the sport. Like these guys know whatever it is
For
they
sure.
know. And he also coaches, he coaches, he has probably the best, amongst the best quiver of athletes out there, right? First American finish at Boston, and it just like all the people that he's coached uh, over the years who have run Western States and done well at Western States and done well at, golden ticket many golden ticket
Oh
winners,
yeah.
and all that. But that being said, like the first 10 minutes of their podcast, I can't listen. I have to fast forward through it. Okay. And I love them as much as like any, it's just like I respect their opinion and all that, but it's just like, yeah, it just whatever. It doesn't always work for me. It's like I have to have a couple cups of coffee or something or warm up to it before I can really like, you know, get through it. But that being said, his resume is you know, pretty impressive. Like from a science, like nobody fucking calls a race, right? At 100 miler. Nobody says like, like the Babe Ruth standing up and pointing to where he's going to hit the home run. You know, uh, David Roche sat, at his first 100 mile, went to Leadville and said, "This is my spreadsheet. These are my times that I think I'm going to do." Wasn't saying I'm definitely going to do these or anything, but he said, I think this is where I'm at. And I think this is the realistic approach. And he finished within like 30 seconds of that finishing time at his first 100 miler, breaking a 19-year record.
Clearly, he can back up what he's talking about too. Which,
yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, right? Yeah. I mean, how do you
root against
scary.
the guy?
Yeah. And then that's one. And then he goes and he does pretty much the same thing at Javelina. Some adjustments, maybe a little bit for heat or whatever, but it was still like within, I forget, maybe you guys know how close he was to that one, but that was like within almost a course record there. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting. I have so much respect for David. Just wanted to get it out of the way. We have a ton of respect for him. It's more of like just we view the sport with a little bit of a different lens. I think for a lot of people, having someone who's so positive about a sport that can put you in a really negative mindset when you kind of get in the hole is like a refreshing take on things. We're more pain cave enthusiasts, I guess. But I think one thing that I kind of went through all the top people's results and kind of was just thinking about their place and how it could affect the way that they race. And I think something to really watch for with David in this race is he always front runs. You look at any of the race that he's done, that he's won, he's gone up from the gun and he's controlled the pace. And I think what will really make or break his race is if he's able to control that pace and if he can hold on. Because you saw, if you look at Big Alta, the 50K he did in March, which there was some controversy surrounding his ankle at the finish. Well, he didn't finish, but he kind of like he wasn't able to control that race, and other guys went in front of him and kind of dictated the pace, and he fell apart. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, with like guys like Kilian Jornet and Rod Farvard in here. Like, is he going to be able to have his way, or is he going to have to piggyback off of what the other guys are doing? So,
yeah, because now correct me if I'm wrong here, but the back part of Western States is the more runnable part, right? I mean, traditionally you go through the snow, which there is none this year. You run around and then you go down into the canyons, I guess, which is the hotter part. And I don't, I probably fucked up. I don't know if that's exactly like you just go right
that's
down.
Pretty much it.
That's basically it.
Good. Okay. That's how I remember it, just without, without worrying about the facts. And then towards the end, it gets more runnable, right? So you're thinking that like if he tries to go out front there and goes down into the canyon, into the canyons and gets into trouble down there, right?
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. He has so many interesting training philosophies and racing philosophies. We'll see how he's able to handle. I mean, it's supposed to be. I was looking at the weather for Auburn on that Saturday, and I mean it's a high of 93, and it's probably even hotter in those canyons. So it'll be interesting to see how him and all the other racers kind of deal with that heat. And I mean, heat training is such a huge thing now. They've all been trying to prepare for it, but like there's only two ways that it could go come race day. You either survive or you don't. So
Yeah,
we'll
right on. Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he has, and now granted, I haven't followed other athletes to see what their heat training is. And if I see him doing heat training, which I definitely have seen, you wonder if everybody is doing it to the extent that he has, and I guess, I guess we can assume from what I'm hearing from other people, I guess they are. I mean, have you guys followed? I know Killian does heat training and they all do, but do you think, have you been able to observe like the levels of heat training that other athletes are doing, or no?
Not really. I think it's really difficult to say, and heat training is such a delicate balance where something like that, it's really easy to think of it as sort of separate from your running, but really you are putting a lot of stress on yourself when you go and try to sit in the sauna for half an hour and then go for a run, or run and then sit in the sauna, or go for a run. Even your regular run that for someone who's an elite, whatever it is, an hour run may not be crazy, but if you put on a bunch of layers and you're not used to it, especially a lot of these elites who are coming from different places around the world, especially Europeans, who tend to be, France, not necessarily talking Southern Europe, but and sort of people in America who are from generally sort of Colorado, Northern Arizona, California. You don't tend to see a lot of people who are already living in that hot climate. So I think it's definitely necessary. Um, and we'll see. It's a delicate balance to not break yourself in that training, because you totally can quite literally overcook yourself just by
Yeah.
trying to get in those reps of in the sauna suit, in the sauna, putting on all kinds of clothes, doing all that. So
Mm.
we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think a lot of people are doing it pretty much to the same extent. I would have to imagine, just because that's something that's sort of one of the things that's sort of necessary in today's game,
Yeah.
which I think it
Yeah, I
definitely
mean
wasn't maybe not that long ago.
I've Strava stalked, like I follow a bunch of the top guys like Rod Farvard and Adam Peterman, and they're all, I mean, if you're not heat training at this point, you're not contending for the race.
Mm.
It's all about like getting that sauna time in, getting those hot bike rides in, running uphill on a treadmill with 30,000 layers on your body. So I feel like at this point, that's just the standard. And I think David Roche is one of those guys who's pioneering even more creative ways. I think I just looked on YouTube and he has a video about running 20 miles in a heat suit outside or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So
It is pretty, it is just, maybe I'm just shocked because like I'm just not used to seeing people really training at an elite level, right? So that the window that he gives us into his day-to-day training is unprecedented, I think, where he's just like, hey, this is exactly what I did. And it's not like you listen to the interviews of like Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vindigo, and they'll say, so what are your strategies today for this, in the Criterion Dauphiné today? What's your strategy going to be? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you. I mean, so it's like, but like, obviously I'm not going to tell you. Okay. We're going to have to wait and see. And they don't like tell anything, but like, Dave Roche just seems to like say whatever's, apparently says whatever's on his mind, and just, goes in, and I don't know. He just kind of goes after it and tells you when he's doing well and when he's not. I think it's always like, the only thing that really gets me is that the feed being his sponsor just like fucking cringes me out like too much. I honestly think, like, how can you like talk about nutrition this much and fueling carbs this much when they're your sponsor? Like, just like,
yeah.
I mean, I know it's true because I do hear them saying that on the tour, and the things that he's saying I think are true, but it's just so hard to believe them when when they're just like, with the feed tattoos on them. It's just, I don't know. It's a lot. So I think they'd do better if they would. I think they would do 100% better if they dropped. I don't know what the feed is paying them, but if they dropped if they didn't have the feed and they just went to Patreon, they could just hold themselves above it all, like Cultra Trail Running Podcast. Yeah. If he went to 112% listeners supported, he could then like really lean into what he felt the truth was, because you can just tell most of the time. I think they may be correct in what they're saying. I kind of feel that they are, but I think they just embellish shit that they shouldn't be, but that's allegedly. Okay. Don't want to get sued. Don't sue me.
Draw that line.
Yeah. But it's all fun. So, so it's funny though to see now. Do you think that the general trail running prognosticators are hating on David Roche because of that for some reason, or why? Or
I think he's definitely a very divisive topic. I think everyone has within the trail running community, everyone has a baseline respect for each other, which I think is such a huge component of what makes this sport so great. But I think there are some guys, and you can hear it in other podcasts, that I think the whole personality thing is really it's a hard pill for some people to swallow, ourselves included. I think that's the main reason. I don't think anyone doubts his fitness, but I think just going off of the videos and just when you're on the internet that publicly and your personality's out there that much, it's obviously going to build up some certain opinions about how you're going to perform. And I think that's the main driver. But I try to look at it as through a performance lens and take personality out of it, even though it's pretty hard with David Roche.
Yeah, although these are YouTube videos, right, that he's putting out
Yeah.
there. So you have to also consider that too, right? The fact that that's he's basically printing money with that. Like if he thinks
I know
people are going to watch that, and he doesn't actually have to do anything I ran in a heat suit and you won't believe what happened. Watch till the end. He doesn't have to say that, So I have, and to be honest with you, I've listened to this podcast a lot or on a regular basis. I have not watched the videos. I haven't watched the YouTube, just to, throw that out there. So I don't know.
You're missing a video of David Roche running with ankle weights on warm up for a workout. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
The best thing that came out of the video series was the David Poach video series. There's a guy who parodies him, and it's so funny.
Oh,
I think
they are great
on the podcast, but they're really funny. If you get the chance, check out the David Roche videos just so that you can see those David Poach videos in their full glory.
That sounds like that could be pretty good. So,
and even I think David Roche has shouted him out and said,
yes. No, I'm sure he took
this
that.
Is cool. I'm not offended. This is really funny, and I thought it was.
Yes. Yeah. Very good. So so tell us. I kind of sorry I took us way off and down the down a rabbit hole here, but so what do you have a let's say this, where do you think he might finish if you had to throw just a place for him? What position do you think he'll finish in if you had to guess? And you have to.
For me, at least, I have my top 10 already, and right now I have him in 10th place out of 10.
Okay.
I just think, I don't know, it's just such a talented field, and I think his experience is still very limited, especially against elite fields. I just don't think he's ran against much competition. Obviously Javelina has some good guys in it every year, but Leadville, let's be honest, it's not like as prestigious as it once was. And he did Quad Rock 50, which it's an awesome local race in Colorado, but it's not like a nationally recognized thing. So I have him in 10th place.
Just a second. Quad Rock, is that that's not like the Power of Four race, is it? Have you ever heard of that one or no?
I don't think so.
Goes
that's
up like four mountains.
No, it's over in Fort Collins. It's a really awesome community race.
Oh, okay.
Kind of over in the Horsetooth Reservoir area.
Yeah.
Fort Collins, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't finalized my picks yet, but I don't know. It depends on what we're talking about. If it's the full free trail scoring, because then I think I would probably have him somewhere similar, just a hedge. But to be honest, I think I would probably put him as a DNF. I just think there are so many good runners in this race. I think to be honest, I think he's going to psych himself out a little bit.
Mm.
And I think the approach of the fastest mile on the start line is going to win the race. I don't think that's quite the approach that we need for Western States. It's, I just think that he's either going to do really well or drop. So I think it's going to be sort of, if I had to really say what I thought, it would be DNF. But if I had to say what I'm putting on free trail, I think it'll end up being probably 8th through 10th, which many of the listeners might not have heard of free trail fantasy, which is sort of fantasy trail running, which is what we play every week.
Half of our podcast is just talking about free trail fantasy. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
Pretty awesome.
How many people are in that league, or bet on a typical race, or
That's a good question. You can see every race, but it depends on the race. Some are definitely bigger than others. Sometimes there are sort of random, smaller, like sky races that are in there, and there's no money involved or anything. It's just sort of for fun. Which, if sports gambling came to ultra running, I don't even know what would happen. That'd be kind of crazy.
I'd be a broke individual.
Well,
it would. Cocodona, it's 672 people who played.
Okay. And how many people ran?
That's a good question.
Couple hundred.
Yeah.
300, 200, 200.
Like that.
Between 200 to 300, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out Abel in 9th for Cocodona. Out of 6.
Yeah. Spot on.
Wow.
You were you were like 20th too.
Yeah, I was 20th.
So you're at 50%. You can say 50% of our podcast is in the top 10 prognosticators.
Yep, there you go.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. That's great. So what are your other thoughts on the race as far as people to watch that you think like nobody else out there is talking about? Do you have anybody like that or no?
It seems like everyone's talking about everyone these days.
Yeah.
I have one guy, I think, Peter Frano. He's from over in Europe. I'm trying to think. I think he's from, is it Slovenia? I can't, Serbia or somewhere like that.
I think it's Slovakia.
Slovakia, maybe. But yeah, he was second at CCC, which, if you're unfamiliar, it's kind of the 100K version of UTMB. It's super prestigious, and it's a golden ticket race for Western States. So because he finished second there, he's getting automatic entry into Western States. And I mean, he's a super talented runner. This is his first American race. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the heat and everything coming from Europe. But I think he's a super strong runner that just because a lot of the talk around Western States is about the Americans, he's kind of a European name that I think is kind of flying under the radar that could make a splash.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting take. So any last thoughts on the men's race? I guess are you guys going to have your own show for for picking the top 10 of Western States and kind of your reveal of that?
Yeah, we'll have a show coming out sometime next week before the race.
Okay.
Actually going through what we think.
We're going to break down our top 10s.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't want you guys to give away the special sauce here.
No. So, but I will say
it's kind of a teaser there for our listeners, though. If you guys want to know their actual picks, you'll be able to tune into the Colder Boys podcast and hear that. And then you can take your money, and when you go into work and they fill out that grid, you'll know where to put your money and show up everybody else in the workplace. So,
yeah. And hopefully, if anyone's interested, we have a free trail fantasy league that you can join. So if you just message us on Instagram at Colder Boys Show, we'll be happy to add you to the league. And we'd love to have more people playing, especially for Western States, just because there's a lot of familiar names in there. And usually you pick the top 5, but for Western States, you pick the top 10. So you've got a better chance at success.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I would just say people should obviously be on the lookout for a course record. The field just keeps getting faster every year. And even though obviously the king, Jim Walmsley, is no longer entered, there's like so many guys on this list that could go under 14 minutes potentially on this course. So just be ready for some ripping times.
Yeah. Now last year, the second place finisher that you're one of the guys that you guys are predicting to win. He wasn't how far back was he off the leader?
See, 10 minutes maybe.
He was
I think
with him for until pretty
he
late.
was with him for a long time. Yeah, it was. I'd have to look, but
okay, but that's still like he's within a stone. He's within a
he's
very close,
deviation there, right? So
all right, just about 9 minutes. It looks like
9 minutes.
No, wait, 11 minutes. I can't do math.
Yeah, 10 minutes basically.
We'll call it 10.
And I mean, he was only 15 seconds in front of the next guy, so it was a sprint finish.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the women's race. What do you guys see there?
Yeah, the women's race is almost sort of more exciting than the men's race, to be honest. I mean, we're seeing so many people drop out of the men's race, but the women's race has been pretty stacked from the beginning. Looking at the returners, you have the women who finished last year second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh, and ninth, all returning, taking that top 10 spot. So in second, sort of in a similar Rod Farvard position, is Fu Zhaojiang out of China. One of the great things about the internationalization of the sport is we're getting some really great runners, especially from Asia, coming over and dominating on some of our trails, which is really cool. Similarly, in third, we had Esther Chilag, who is from, I think she's originally Hungarian, but she lives in Hong Kong. So another runner coming over from Asia and doing really well. I'm sure the weather in Hong Kong is probably a little bit worse than a little bit warmer and more humid than Western states. At least feels warmer. So yeah, then you have returning Emily Hawgood, who is originally from Zimbabwe, but I think she went to college in the U.S. and is now, I think she's somewhere in the U.S.
She's out in Auburn. She lives in Auburn.
Oh, does she live in Auburn now? Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So definitely some really strong runners and a little bit more of an international field represented outside of just sort of Flagstaff, Boulder, and France, which is really cool. You have a bunch of other golden ticket winners as well who are really strong. One really name that I'm sure you've seen everywhere is Tara Dower. Pretty crazy. She just set the Appalachian Trail FKT this past year, and she also she won Hard Rock, and then she ended up getting a golden ticket as well. So pretty insane, run for her.
Yeah, and I did just want to say the one entrant in the female field that we will be rooting for the most
for sure
is Riley Brady.
Of course, yes.
They are a University of Vermont alum.
Go
They are a shining representative of what we can do in the ultra scene.
Yeah.
So, and they're finally sponsored by Nike, which is awesome. I'm glad they inked a deal. And yeah, we'll be cheering for them all the way. And I mean, they've had an incredible season. I mean, finishing in a golden ticket position at multiple golden ticket races, making it look easy is just ridiculous. So they'll be up there for sure.
Yes. That's I have been hearing that as well. So
yeah, and they came from the East Coast scene, which is really awesome. Them and Tara Dower. Tara Dower is actually from Virginia. So it's awesome to see some East Coast representation out there.
Riley's been on the podcast, right?
Yes, she has. Yes, they have. Yes.
Awesome.
The other thing that they have going for them is the fact that Ellie Pell is good friends. So I think that will that's got to be worth like an hour, I'd say,
at least
in my book. So
best crew can take off so much time.
Yeah.
So if you can get it dialed.
Yep, no doubt. So okay, any other thoughts on the race there, on the women's side?
Yeah, that's a really hard one because there's no real clear favorite, just because there's so many great women who are badly. I mean, you could say it's really any of those top women, the Fu Zhaojiang, Esther Chilag, or Emily Hawgood. Anyone could say that it's their race to lose at this point, but it's really a toss-up. And I think there's where we're going to see a little bit more competition up at the front, and I think historically the women have been able to actually hold it together a little bit better, and I think men tend to sort of
Get
blow up,
lost
and
at
then
the end.
you get the couple people who end up making it through and they're battling at the end, but not in as great force. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited to see that, and we'll have to follow up on the podcast. Listen if you want a little bit more in depth,
Yeah.
look for results and stuff like that, and we'll
No, it's
have our arguments.
It's nice to have a voice of reason and an authority that we can consult for these things. So, you know, so don't fuck it up, okay? It's no, this is great. You know, I appreciate you know, hearing all this. So I do want to talk about one thing before we go. Upcoming, I guess, Tobias, you're heading to Manitous Revenge, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
Manitous
yeah.
Revenge, and then that's my plan is to use Manitous Revenge as sort of as a last long run before Quebec Mega Trail 135K up in Quebec on July 4th weekend. So,
Oh wow, okay,
yeah. So it's a little
excellent.
bit of a mix where Manitous Revenge isn't the full goal, but just want to do it. And I've been hearing a lot of great stuff about Manitous forever, and I've always wanted to go out and do it. And
Yeah.
I've never actually been out the Catskills really, so
Oh yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
it's going to be.
They're fucking evil. Let me just put
Yeah.
it that way.
That's what
They are.
people are saying.
There is just like, yeah, it's not named the Devil's Path for no reason. It's just, it is. I remember I camped there, and the flies in the outhouse were
Oh,
like, they were like, they were like 2 inches long. They were like crazy,
oof.
and they just looked at you, and you could hear them breathing, you know, or they were scary. Um, but yeah, Mark Kelly's running as well, right?
Awesome. Yeah,
Uh,
I think Jimmy Mack might be running as well. I don't know.
really? I didn't see his name
Maybe
there, but
he's
he
crashed.
could
I don't
be.
know.
And then Laura Riki, our fast cat. So you know, and a couple others. So there's certainly always a packed field there too for that kind of stuff, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's there's nothing flowy about this, Abel. Just spoiler alert,
Oh, I
right?
know.
It's a
Yeah.
hiking race.
I let Toby take Manitous Revenge. I will not be
The
joining him on that endeavor.
the only thing that flows is blood there. So you know, but I'll be working a an aid station there.
Oh,
I
nice.
think it's called Willow is the aid station. So I'll be up there to, I think, from 11 o'clock in the morning to like 2 or 3 o'clock at night or in the morning.
Oh,
So, you know,
awesome.
the next night. So it'll be a long, it's like a mile and a half up in the woods. So we'll be hauling
There you
all this
go.
stuff up the mountain, and should be a good time. So, so good luck to you on that race, and to everybody else who's running at Manitous. Um, and you know, good luck with your podcast too. It is really again, it's really exciting to you know, to listen to and to hear you know, the wealth of knowledge that you've been able to you know, that you guys are able to put together. And then to hear about your own personal running experiences too. Those are always fun to hear, you know. Because you also did something like, didn't you do some did you do like a what do you call it, the not a traverse, a did you do something in the Adirondacks or something? Am I
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
Toby did.
Yeah, I
think I saw
Abel didn't
that.
want to tag along for that one. He was in California enjoying some.
I was doing the California single track while he was.
Yeah, you would have though, right? You would have gone.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I would have let the
Yeah,
masters show me the way. Yeah.
yeah. And are you also talking about a rim to rim? Did I?
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay.
We have it in the works maybe for the fall at some
Someday.
point. We're gonna
Okay.
get there.
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
First up, let's
It's in the
get Abel
talking
through Burning
stages.
River.
Yeah, I gotta get through this. I gotta get through Burning River first.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's that will be a challenge. So. Um. Okay. Do you guys have any closing arguments?
Yeah, I just say, I mean, if you want to watch some of the most entertaining trail running that you'll ever see, Western States is streaming for free on YouTube every year. So, and I mean, they usually get, I mean, there'll be well over 100,000, well over 500,000 people who end up tuning in. Um, so if you want something to do on June 28th, check on your YouTube
Mm.
and look at the Western States feed. And it gets better every year. Obviously, like when you think of an ultra running live stream, it's an 8-bit quality that freezes every 2 minutes. But
Mm.
they've really got a high quality production over there. So yeah, it'll be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope, you know what I was hoping, and this is a kind of probably a whole nother topic here, but um the everybody always talks about the golden hour there and how that's so special, right? And it is, right? And it is at a lot of races, right? The end,
Yeah.
watching the last people try to keep it together and get in. So um it's been brought up by by several people, Scotty and some others, that it might be cool to kind of also take a look at some of the cutoffs, just to see how people are doing with those, and to kind of follow the journey of the mini golden hours that occur throughout the race. Because you think about it, every cutoff, on the every cutoff point in the race is kind of like a mini golden hour. Those are the first
Yeah.
barriers you got to get through, and those are as heartbreaking as the ending sometimes.
Mm.
Sometimes more so. Like, hey,
Mm.
shit, I was in shape, and all of a sudden something, I slipped on the snow and I couldn't get my shit together, and I can't believe this is you know this is happening. So I don't know, I would it would be interesting to see if they ever expand that. You guys have any thoughts on that, or you agree or disagree, or you think there's a
Yeah. I mean,
place for that, or no?
I think I think the one of the awesome things about trail running is like every the course is always so unique in every race that every runner has their own story to tell within a race. I feel like you don't see that in a track where you're just running around the same little loop 5 times. Like,
Mm,
you don't know, somebody could take a wrong turn and end up going a mile the wrong way and then have to
yeah.
come back and then miss the cutoff because they took a wrong turn. And
Yes.
there's just so many variables and stuff that like every individual has their own kind of, and just I think like when you get to the finish line and hearing everybody talk about, oh man, I saw this bear when I was out on the trail and stuff
Mm,
like that is really what makes ultra running so enjoyable. So like focusing on each individual as opposed to just the elites is something that we try to bring onto our podcast and that we really enjoy about the sport.
yeah, right on. That's great, because if you think about, I don't know, have guys ever watched the Iron Man Kona, that they would televise? I don't know if they
Oh
still
yeah.
do that, but
Yeah,
like,
they still do.
the thing is that, yeah, they show the winners and they show the leaders, but then they also show the people who are, the guy who's riding his bike, and all of a sudden he wipes out on his bike, and his frame cracks in half, and he's like an elite guy, but he doesn't want to give up, so he carries his bike for the last, like 10 miles or something like that, and then just makes the cutoff so that he can run, and make the race, but you didn't know whether he was going to make it, and it's just the people who run, you hear the backstory of people, and they go through the whole thing, and it's kind of more of a relatable thing, because, as much as we all love, um, there's a lot of people who like to watch the elites and to follow their story and watch that competition and the dynamics of a race. Um, there's a whole nother set of people who also enjoy the human interest part of it, where these people are having a race, and it can be just as compelling and exciting. So I don't know. I'm kind of a little puzzled on why they wouldn't try to cash in. If you're trying to expand your base, I think you could increase it by a third or double or more,
Mm.
because they always say there's more people at the golden hour than when the winners come through. And I know that's a lot because people are still out on the course with the volunteers, but it still would be pretty cool to see, in my opinion, to see some more of that, um, you know, kind
Yeah,
of.
definitely. I think it's just hard to get all the coverage and stuff to get the people sort of coming in, but I think they have done a pretty good job in recent years, at least sort of covering that. I know it's also fun watching toward the end of the live stream once, but between that like first finishers, and then not sort of getting into that, like these people are like on their deathbed, like barely going to finish. It's really cool to see sometimes if you're waiting for your friend to come in. Like I know I watched Jimmy Mack come through, and definitely it's really cool to see some of that stuff as well. But I think they've done a pretty good job, especially with those golden hour finishers, bringing them through and telling their stories, at least to the extent possible, when you don't really know who that's going to be, where, you know, the people who are going to be top 10 at this race, there's probably 20 or 30 people who could be top 10. And so a broadcaster can prepare and all that. But
yeah,
you know, there's probably
I think they do
who could be last.
Yeah, I think they do give, like, they ask you questions and stuff as part of your package. So there might be something they could, you know, or if they don't, they certainly should, right? In case that happens, in case you happen to be the lead story of the whole race, so that you know at least the background stuff. But
yeah, I think they've gotten a good balance. I think one of the sort of comparison points would be like big city marathons, where I think they've gone a little bit too heavy on that human interest, because it has to be played on TV for everyone in Chicago, everyone in Boston. And sometimes I've seen, you know, and because we're serious runners, you know, I'm sure Abel has also seen those Let's Run threads where they're like, the biggest women's move just got like totally overshadowed by this guy who's running for charity for his pet chicken. And it's like, okay, like
no, you know, that's
how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's a fair point. But there certainly are points in the middle of the race where, you know, and today I saw it. I was watching a cycling event, right? And they have the little screen up in the corner, and the leader in the race goes around a corner after it started to rain and almost wipes out, and like he unclips and puts down his foot, you know, going 50 miles an hour around a corner in the rain. But they were busy talking to somebody about their pre-race bullshit, right? But as soon as that was over, they went back and flashed to it and showed us, you know, like, so if they're doing a key move, I know that it's not like Wide World of Sports. I get it, right? They're probably trying to figure it out, but it would be I don't know. It seems like it would be something good to show.
Western States and Cocodona races like that also, you know, it also lends itself a little bit more to those human interest stories, because you actually do have probably multiple hours at a time.
Yeah.
You don't really have anyone on camera. You're just sort of, you know.
Oh yeah. They're sitting around.
There's nothing happening. They're somewhere in the woods, but we don't have anything. Yeah. So we're going to interview this person, and it all works out a little bit easier than when you have sort of, you know, you can't really do it as easily in a 2-hour race where you're having to find time for commercials and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right. Well, guys, thank you for the time. You know, tonight it was really great to hear about the Cultra Boys and hear about Western States. It'll be interesting to watch how the whole thing plays out. I'll be tuning in here and there, at least at a minimum, to see what's going on. Again, I'll have a link to Cultra Boys in the show notes, so that anybody who wants to check that out can do so. And I guess thank you guys. And to all of our listeners, thank you. And if you've made it this far, of course, seek professional help. And we will see you all in a mile
and a half.
All right. Very good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks
yeah, of course. Me. Thank you. I was awesome kid at some point.
Yeah, I used to hang out in Vermont more. My mom used to live in Jericho, so
gotcha.
I ran the Vermont City Marathon probably 8 times.
Oh, yeah.
I used to pace it.
Toby did that one this year.
I just ran it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you broke 3 hours, right?
Yeah,
you did.
Fuck me, man. That's good. That's running. That's
not
like real runner shit
there. Shoes and all these people running. I didn't even get a Boston qualifier with my 256. So
that's criminal. Back in the old days, we used to qualify for Boston, and they would give us an extra 59 seconds. So, you know.
Yeah, they just changed the Boston qualifier today. It's like a big news thing
today.
Yeah, they changed with the net downhill courses. They add 5 minutes to your time if it's more than 1,500 feet.
Oh, okay.
Change in the start to the bottom.
Wait,
So
Oh, so like
1,500 feet descent, but I have to run a 250. I feel like that's kind of, I feel like I could do that.
Steamtown
yeah,
and
yeah.
that
There's a
one in
few,
the
I
White
think.
Mountains,
The Revel.
the Revel. I think they probably
Yeah,
got a lot of people. Yeah, that's become a thing now, right? So
yeah. A lot of like run influencers, I think, have been using loopholes like that to get in, and it's not
that's
really been fair to others.
hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's get Derek on that shit, right?
Yeah. Has
Oh
he
my
been on the
god.
podcast?
No, I don't want to fucking have him on the podcast. Thank you very much. I can't stand that shit. That's
No.
like, oh, I'm sorry.
Is
Like
he the
I
marathon
get it.
investigation guy?
Yes,
Oh
yes.
yeah.
If you're
Oh,
a
the one that goes through like all the
oh,
little
Yeah.
like individual like spreadsheets.
and
That's
then he's like,
crazy.
you better come clean or I'm gonna publicly shame you, and I'm going public and let everyone know what you did.
I'm gonna send
Just
your like employer at the
yeah.
bank that you work
Yeah.
at that you cheated at the marathon.
I think it's a really good service for race directors if you have an issue with that, and if you want to just disqualify people because they cheated, or because or because somebody complained about somebody who cheated. Like if you're a race director and somebody comes to you and says, hey, I think this is what happened, and it you kind of want to be respectful of the people who are in your race and doing it. But like this whole social media canceling and their whole
Pretty
crew,
crazy.
oh my God, it's just disgusting. So